So if Manchester United were to sign Viktor Gyokeres, I would like to see Ruben Amorim adjust his 3-4-3 to more of a 3-4-1-2 on occasion, as I think using Højlund and Gyokeres as a front two with either Bruno Fernandes or Ahmad in behind could be an absolutely deadly front three, and I'm going to break down exactly why from a tactical point of view later on in the video. But first of all, should Manchester United sign Viktor Gyokeres? What type of striker is he? And how good is he actually? So I was on the fence about signing Viktor Gyokeres, as I do think a lot of the Manchester United fan base have just started watching him since Amorim was appointed, and just like with Ten Hag and some of the Ajax players, have jumped on the Gyokeres bandwagon purely because of that. And if Amorim hadn't been appointed, he wouldn't have been a name mentioned by many. But a broken clock is right twice a day, so that doesn't necessarily mean that Gyokeres wouldn't be a great signing. But overall, considering he has a release clause of around £83 million, with Sporting apparently reportedly willing to accept around £63 million after a verbal agreement with Gyokeres in the summer, I think you have to at least consider it. But what are Gyokeres' best attributes, and what type of striker is he? Well, I'd describe Gyokeres as an advanced forward, similar to Højlund, in the sense that you primarily want him sitting high, either pinning the centre-backs backwards to maximise the space in behind the opposition's midfield line, or spinning into the channels and using his pace and power to receive direct passes down the channels, and being able to use his brute physicality and powerful ball carrying to drive the ball into the final third. However, given that he is slightly older than Højlund, 26-27 next season, Gyokeres is definitely a more developed striker than the Dane, and when I show you both players' FBref reports, I think you'll be able to see that clearly. But from the eye test, Gyokeres' ball control when receiving a pass with his back to goal and laying the ball off quickly and efficiently is certainly a lot better than Højlund, who I often feel just gets too involved in the physical battle, which often causes him to hold on to the ball for too long, not seeing a simple pass, and often his clunky style can lead to him getting the ball caught under his feet. Now, it is true that Gyokeres does have a similar kind of aesthetic to Højlund, but I think he's far better when it comes to laying the ball off with his back to goal, and also when both spinning into the channels and isolating a defender in a 1v1. Gyokeres' ball manipulation and dribbling is a level or two above Højlund's, and we can see this statistically when we look at Gyokeres' FBref report. But before I come on to that, if you want to check out any of the new season jerseys or any retro club or international shirts, go over to Jersey FIFA. You can use code Atlantis at checkout for a discount. A link will be in my Instagram bio, which I will leave linked in the description. So in the 793 minutes he's played in the Champions League over the past 365 days, when compared against every other forward in Europe's top 5 leagues, you can see that Gyokeres is an absolute monster when it comes to his ball carrying, ranking around the 96th and 97th percentile for his progressive carries, as well as both his carries into the final third and penalty area, whilst also sitting in the 81st percentile for his successful take-ons. Now, Højlund does have the potential to be a significant progressive threat via his ball carrying, as he certainly has the pace and the power of Gyokeres, but he doesn't yet have the Swede's ball control or confidence in those types of situations, which is reflected by the fact that he ranks between the 50th to 60th percentile range for most of those same ball carrying and dribbling metrics. But even when it comes to his progressive passing, Gyokeres absolutely blows Højlund out of the water, and is arguably just as impressive as he is when driving the ball forwards with the ball at his feet, certainly in terms of chance creation, where he ranks in the 98th percentile for his XG assisted and his expected assists. And whilst he does rank slightly lower for his progressive passing metrics, around the 60th to 70th percentile range, considering he isn't a deep lying forward or a false 9 like Xerxes, whose primary role is to drop deep and aid with ball progression, he still looks very impressive. And so if you are comparing Gyokeres with Højlund, even factoring out the goal scoring, the Sporting striker is not one but maybe a few levels above Højlund in terms of his ball progression and overall creativity. But then once you come on to his goal scoring, there's really no competition. I know he is playing in the Primeira Liga in Portugal for Amorim Sporting, but if you look at his FBref report from the last few seasons, in different competitions, you can clearly see that this guy is an incredible goal scorer, both in terms of his movement to create chances for himself and his clinical finishing once in those positions. Let me just go through his goal scoring and chance creating metrics quickly. This season, in 974 minutes in the Portuguese Primeira Liga, the 89th percentile for his non-penalty goals, the 96th for his non-penalty XG, with an overperformance of 0.24 per 90, alongside an XG assisted in the 82nd percentile. In the Champions League, compared against every other forward in Europe's top 5 leagues over the past 365 days, he sits in the 81st percentile for his non-penalty goals, the 74th for his non-penalty XG, with an overperformance of 0.09 per 90, and an XG assisted in the 98th percentile. Last season in the Primera Liga, he sat in the 94th percentile for his non-penalty goals, the 90th for his non-penalty XG with an overperformance of 0.16 per 90, whilst also ranking in the 97th percentile for his XG assisted. In the Championship in 22-23 for Coventry, it was the 80th percentile for his non-penalty goals, the 79th for his non-penalty XG with a slight overperformance of 0.03 per 90, and ranking in the 93rd percentile for his XG assisted. And alongside this, he consistently has been ranking in the mid to high 90th percentiles for his ball carrying and take on metrics, and so it's pretty clear to me that Gyokeres' insane numbers aren't solely down to him playing for Sporting in the Portuguese Primeira Liga, and this is why stats are critical to analysing players fully, and anyone who says otherwise just doesn't know what they're talking about, because initially from the eye test, I actually thought Gyokeres looked quite clunky, and I was sceptical as to whether his goal scoring would translate to the top 3 European leagues, but once you analyse him statistically over multiple seasons at different clubs in different competitions, you can clearly see that not only is he an exceptional goal scorer, but also an incredible progressor of the ball via his powerful ball carrying and dribbling, alongside being a chance creating machine as well. And I have changed my mind on the Manchester United striker situation over the last few weeks, as even though I do really like Xerxes and think he's massively underrated due to people not understanding the role that he's meant to play in a particular system, I do think Manchester United should potentially be looking to offload him and replacing him with Gyokeres, as I genuinely believe the Sporting striker could come in and not only be a 20 Premier League goal a season striker from next season, but would also contribute massively throughout his overall play, in a way that Højlund can't yet do at this stage in his development. Now I'll come on to whether Gyokeres should be the player that Manchester United consider spending 60, maybe 70 million pounds plus on in the summer, or whether there could be better options for United to look at. But first, let's tactically break down how Gyokeres could fit into Amorim's system. Well, before I come on to that, a quick reminder, you can sign up to the in-game analysis Instagram group chat. I'll leave my Patreon linked in all the usual places. So in Amorim's familiar 3-4-3 system, Gyokeres could be used as an advanced forward, holding a higher position but contributing to ball progression through 2 different avenues, his movement in behind as well as playing direct passes into his feet. Amorim could instruct Gyokeres to hold a higher position on the shoulder of the last defender between the 2 centre-backs, looking to positionally pin them in the back line, looking to maximise the space between the lines for Bruno and Amad in behind the opposition's midfield line, who can be enticed as high up as possible through Manchester United's midfield double pivot moving towards a back 3 in possession. From here, United can look to circulate the ball, wait for Amad and Bruno to open up a passing lane between the lines, from where Gyokeres can then look to make a darting run in between the 2 centre-backs, with Amad and Bruno then able to release him with a through ball, splitting the opposition centre-back and full-back, looking to take advantage of Gyokeres' pace, power and clinical finishing in 1v1s. Alternatively, rather than looking to receive the through ball in a direct central position via making a run between the 2 centre-backs, Gyokeres could decide to make more of an arcing run on the outside of the left-sided centre-back between him and the left-back, which while still offering a passing option in behind would also work to drag the left-sided centre-back deeper and over to United's right side, opening up the space centrally on the inside for Amad to drive into, where from if you had either Garnacho or Rashford playing from the left of the front 3, now they can look to make a movement in behind between the right-sided centre-back and right-back, giving Amad 2 options for the through balls in behind, with both Gyokeres and Rashford having the pace to race in behind the centre-backs and the finishing ability when they are released in shooting positions. And Gyokeres under Amorim has also been coached to understand when he needs to make a run into a goal-scoring position, and when a wider movement into the channels can be more beneficial to the overall move, just as we saw against Manchester City for Sporting's second goal. See, rather than looking to make a vertical movement in behind the City back line, looking to receive the ball in a central position, Gyokeres instead makes what I refer to as a facilitating run, with a movement over to the left-sided channel, which works to drag Akanji over to Sporting's left side with the other centre-back, opening up the space centrally for Goyekes to drive into with the ball, and Orejo the left wing back to run into as well, which creates an overload against City's back line and allows Orejo to drive through the centre of the City back line, receiving the pass in behind from Goyekes, from where he finishes a chance, but the initial space for Goyekes and Orejo to drive into was created through Gyokeres peeling out to the channel and dragging the City centre-backs into deeper and wider positions. But But Gyokeres is such a complete centre forward that he isn't just the focal point when running in behind, as his physicality, technical ability under pressure and awareness of runners around him would allow United to go more direct into his feet from in front of the opposition's defensive shape. The right-sided centre-back Dalot in this example has possession, and with both Mazraoui and Ahmad initially holding wider positions, this should stretch the space between the opposition's left-sided midfielder and the central midfielder on his inside, as well as pulling the left-back backwards, opening up the passing lane from Dalot into Gyokeres, who rather than spinning in behind this time, can move towards the ball, looking to receive the ball to feet. And when this line-breaking pass from Dalot is played, this is where coordinated patterns of play and movements can be incredibly effective, as because Ahmad is a left footer playing from the right, rather than having him looking to break in behind his fullback, I would have him make a movement as though he was about to run in behind before checking his run in order to lose the left back before then making a movement on the inside as Gyokeres is receiving the ball, which will firstly open up the space down the channel for Mazraoui to run off the left-sided midfielder, with the left back having to follow Ahmad's movement inside, but secondly, if Gyokeres can get his layoff right, Ahmad can receive the ball on his inside in a similar area to the previous example, with Gyokeres then spinning on the outside of the centre-back and Rashford making that movement between the right back and centre-back, and once again this would provide Ahmad with two very good through ball opportunities to release either Rashford or Gyokeres in behind. But could Gyokeres function in the front two with Rasmus Højlund? Well, if Amorim switched to more of a 3-4-1-2 in possession, Højlund and Gyokeres could be used as a front two, looking to pin both centre-backs into the defensive line, sitting between the centre-back and full-backs, therefore meaning that if the opposition's midfield line squeezes up the pitch in order to pressurise United in the defensive third, Bruno Fernandes can then look to drop into the pockets of space in behind the midfield, wherefrom if Mainu and Agate can use horizontal movements in order to drag the opposition's central midfielders man-to-man, pressing them apart, stretching the space between them, United can then open up a passing lane from one of the back three into Fernandes' feet, then allowing Fernandes to turn and try to play one of his trademark through balls for either Gyokeres or Højlund, making runs from the outside of either centre-back. And having Højlund and Gyokeres as a front two would be a throwback to the 90s and early 2000s, when strikers like Christian Vieri, Shevchenko and Adriano were known for their powerful long bursting runs into the channels. Not being content with simply scoring 1 and 2 touch finishes inside of the box, but also having the pace and power to carry the ball up the pitch from wide and central positions, being able to create their own shooting positions from where their strikes can be devastating. And certainly when watching Gyokeres you can see the stylistic resemblance, and even though at this point in his development Højlund isn't at that level from a technical point of view, he has shown he can be a significant ball carrying threat, having a similar sort of powerful running style to Gyokeres. Having both Højlund and Gyokeres on the pitch together would also provide United with a much greater goal scoring threat in the final third, something especially useful against deeper defensive units who can drop back into their defensive third, as with the middle congested, having both Højlund and Gyokeres inside of the box would give United a significantly greater aerial and overall box threat from crossing situations. But overall, if Viktor Gyokeres does cost somewhere between £65 to £85 million, is he the player that Manchester United should be signing? Well, in terms of centre forwards, I think Gyokeres is probably the best option. I do like Benjamin Sesko at RB Leipzig, as I do think he has the potential to be a consistent 30 goal a season striker, as his movement, ball control and finishing in and around the box is already exceptional, with his link play with his back to goal also being better than Højlund's. However, given his age and development path, I think signing a ready-made striker like Gyokeres, who is already in his prime, is the better option, with Gyokeres' ball carrying and dribbling when moving into wider areas cost his release clause of around £85 million, and I think you also have to consider Alexander Isak at Newcastle, who would likely be slightly more expensive, maybe between £90 to £100 million, but like Gyokeres, Isak is a composed and clinical finisher, a very good dribbler and carrier of the ball, and with both being Swedish, the national team's front line looks incredible. Isak would offer greater versatility, being able to play as a centre forward in the front three or from the left side of the front three, with him also being a player who's stylistically a lot more similar to a wide forward like Rashford in the mould of Thierry Henry, someone who's going to float out to the left flank and then look to break in behind from that position, whereas Gyokeres tends to be more of the focal point at the centre of the attack before then spinning into the channel when a direct pass is ready to be played. Isak has already shown he can hit 20 plus Premier League goals in a season, and if United were were getting rid of Rashford as opposed to Xerxes in any hypothetical situation, he probably would be the better option. Whereas if it's Xerxes who's getting moved on, I think I'd rather have Gyokeres, particularly if he was going to cost around £65 million, which is about £30 million less than what Isaac would cost. So overall, if we could get him for between £65 to £75 million, I would sign Viktor Gyokeres, as I think he's one of the few attacking signings that Manchester United could make in the summer, who could come in next season and instantly be the sort of forward who could bag 20 plus Premier League goals, whilst also offering so much more in terms of his wider movement, link play, ball carrying and his dribbling. So let me know what you think of Gyokeres in the comment section. You can sign up to my Patreon, I'll leave it linked in the description, comment section and on the end screen and eye above.